So this video is about two things. How I generally set up cases for my clients so that they can work through them in a ordered way, and how I use a fabulous functionality that I've set up for Chatter and next updates and latest updates on the records. And now this latest updates thing can be used on any record. I use it on accounts, I use it on contacts, I use it on opportunities. I'm just showing it here on case because it sort of comes from a feature that is built into case, but it's pretty cool in its own right. Okay, so very first thing, list views. Every single, no matter what your stages are through your cases, every single case in your system should be in a list view. So you've got 3 stages, so you've got products with 3 stages. Every single stage, all cases in that stage must be in a list view. So I've got here a list view for all new cases, and I've got all open cases, and then I've got all closed cases. So they're my main 3 statuses. And then I've got all waiting cases. So if anything's waiting, it's in that status. So open includes open and waiting, but again, depending on how my statuses are set up, I might have open, but open and working instead of open. So that then I've got, so instead of all open cases, I might have all open working cases. And it would be only the ones that are in progress that are shown there. Okay. Then I've got action views. So again, I use action views on any object. And the rule for action views is that the action view must be empty. Okay, so all new cases must be empty. If you've got if your job is to work with cases, then the all new cases list view must be empty. Of course, it's never going to be, or because you've got new cases coming in. But the goal is you haven't finished your job today unless all new cases are empty. So it might be accounts that need to be set with a status of SLA generated. You might need to generate the SLA and send it to them. So you have an action view of generate SLAs on your accounts. And again, you haven't done your job until all that list view is empty. Now, that might take days, weeks, months, whatever, but it means that this is your view. I will also create a report that matches this view, and then I might also create a report alert, not a report subscription, but a report alert to send to the manager if there are cases in if things in this action view greater than 3 days old or something along those lines. So that's how I do the escalations. Okay, the whole trick to this is we never ever want to use tasks to tell people what the next thing is that they need to do. Of course, if a person wants to create a task to remind themselves, hey, I want to do this next week or in 2 months' time or something like that on that case, I have no problem with them creating tasks on their own. I just never want to have a situation where I am creating automated tasks. So there should never be an automated task that says, hey, there's a new case, or hey, there's a response received from a client. Okay, of course, I want an alert, an email alert to go to the person to say, hey, there's a new case, just to show that there is. But what I find with my clients is they want those alerts turned off because they know there's new cases coming in. They're always in Salesforce, they're always looking for new cases. Okay, and if I'll have an alert, I'll put an alert up here in the notifications so they see a notification bell. Remember though, if you have notifications here, if you get more than 20 notifications, you don't get any more notifications because it'll only ever say show 20. Okay, so notifications can become a bit more of an issue. So look, people do like email alerts, and sometimes I give them an email alert, but I will only give them an email alert that has a thing to say, here, do this, you need to do this with this record, and here's the link to the record. So I'm not sending any personal details or confidential details out of Salesforce. It's just it is just that, just an alert. Okay, so the whole trick is we want Salesforce, the data on the Salesforce record, to tell us what the next step is. So in this case, the next step is we need to remove it from new. We need to process this case and turn it off new and put it into in progress. So we know what the next step is here. And again, I can put, what I normally do is have my details on the left, my fee on the right, and any next steps that I need, I will put over here. I don't do paths. Paths are terrible. You could do this as a path and have the text in the path. Next step is to get it off new. But the thing is, paths are a bit like full on, really, take up a lot of space on the page. And after your team knows what they're doing, they don't need that level of detail, right? So, you could have something that says, if the person is a new staff member, less than 3 months old, then show them all of these help hints, so I could have a hint here that comes up as a rich text field to say, hint, the next stage is you need to move across from new. But after a few months, they don't need that. They know what their job is, right? These are intelligent people that you've employed to work on in your organization. They know what their job is. Okay. So that's how I do things. Everything is in an action view. So my next action is my cases to follow up. So I've got a list view, and every person has this list view of my cases to follow up. And these are cases where I have set a follow-up date on this case. So I've created a custom field for the follow-up date on a case, and they can modify the follow-up date to set, this is when I need to follow it up. So I'm the owner of the case, and I need to follow it up on the 15th and the 9th. And my next steps is to ask them, are they ready to continue? Okay. So on the 22nd and 11th, the 11th and 9th, we had design drawings submitted. And on the 15th and 9th, I need to follow them up to say, are they now ready to continue? Okay, so in my cases list, I've got this follow up and my cases to follow up. I can sort that by follow up date. So my 12th and the 9th follow up date is the next one, and my 15th and the 9th is there. Now I could have then put rules around this, that you can't have a follow-up date that's in arrears. I could put an alert on this follow-up date, a big alert on this case if the follow-up date has gone past. I can do all sorts of rules around this to ensure that these follow-up dates are not missed. Again, I can alert, send a report alert to their manager, do whatever it needs to be to ensure that these follow-ups are done. So the end result is you've got to get through your cases. Cases may not be able to be simply open, dealt with and closed, but the end result is the case needs to be closed. Okay, and we might have rules that say that if you've got a waiting for client, you must have a follow-up date as a status. If you've got status waiting for client, you must put a follow-up date in. So lets them know. I've also put this in, this filter in to say, only show me the follow-up dates within the next 2 weeks, right? Because I don't need to see every single thing in this list. I could have follow-up dates within a year. Hopefully I don't have open cases for a year, but again, I use this for opportunities. I use this for accounts, anything where we've got jobs to do, and we've got our records tell us what the next jobs to do are, but we just need a prompt to say follow up. Okay. I just don't want tasks, because people have to then close the task and then do the job. Whereas here, they're just doing the job, which would be change the status, and we can then modify this to say, if I change the status now to be closed, then I clear out the follow up date as part of my flow when I change the status, or if I change it, to any stage, I clear out the follow-up date. So that's how I deal with what's the next thing that the record, if the record can't tell me what its next thing is to do, then I allow my clients to put in the details around what is the next thing to do. Okay, so my next trick is then to have the follow-up date used in conjunction with a next steps field. Okay, so we use both of these together. So we'll go back to our action, my cases to follow up, and so we've got the next steps field, and I can hit wrap there. We need more details, and I can then update that to be okay. Well, I now need to push that out for another few days. So I'm going to say the 19th, and I've updated that. So see that I've updated this now in my list view. Okay, so this is my list view is now my, because once I've looked at the case once, I know what this case is about now. I don't need to be looking into every single case. But if I need to, I can go to my split view and go through with each case in my list with the split view. Now, I haven't designed my split view, my view well for the split view here, because the split view is going to show the first 4 fields. So probably what I want to need to do is add in the account name in there. Also, stick that at the top. Account name, contact name. And then if I go to my split view, that should actually look better. So then we've got the, that looks a little bit better. Still looks bad that these are right aligned. But then I can go here, and then I've got my key details up the top with my next steps to continue. So I can go through my list, looking at what I need to do, entering my my follow-up date and the next step to continue, right? Now, so the next thing is, every single time I put in next steps or a follow-up date, and every single time that is changed, I post that to Chatter. Okay, so I've got a full history, and again, this happens on cases, opportunities, accounts, contacts, custom objects, anything. So every single time I put that to Chatter. So every single time next steps change, it goes to Chatter. So we can see here, next steps. Now, if I don't have a follow-up date, I formatted this Chatter post to be quite useful. Yeah, I have to make it change. So if it doesn't have a follow-up date, it just says next steps. Are they ready to continue? We need more details. If it does have a follow-up date, it says follow up on this date, next steps, are they ready to continue? Okay, so now this date is just a standard text format around the standard date field, which is in international format. Of course, I could make it to be a nicer format if I spent more time on my flow, but this was just a sample to get it running, and I do like international date formatted. So again, so now in my feed, in my Chatter feed, now this is a case feed. It looks very different to a Chatter feed, but it would be the same on account. It'd just be every single post would be there on the Chatter feed. But there's another thing, all right? So you've always got the case of managers say to you, give me a report of every single latest action that this person, latest task that this person has ever done, so I can micromanage them and show them, ensure that they've done their tasks. Any manager who asks me to do that, I say no. No, 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 no. A, we're not doing automated tasks. No, we're not relying on tasks. Tasks are not how we do our job. We are going to let Salesforce record tell us what the next things to do are. Now, but if you want to know, then I'll give you a way that you can look at what's the latest things that are happening. Okay, so I've got latest update there. I'll go back to latest update in a bit, but just have a look at next steps. And so I've added in my Chatter post at the end a topic of next case steps. again, so I can have a topic for next account steps, next contact steps, next opportunity steps, whichever I want. If I've got next steps, I will do that. Or I could just have next steps and see everything all together. All right, just the topic just has to be unique. So that means when they click on the topic, when anyone clicks on the topic, you can see a full feed of every single update to cases, because this is the next case step topic. And if you want to know anything about the case, then you can hover over the case and see the details of the case. All right, so that is cool. And then so they can come to this, they can favorite this at any point in time and say, what's the latest things that have been happening on, also this is what are the next things that have been planned for cases. And we can say, put some topic details in here. This is for the next steps for cases. Okay. So then what the manager can do is then follow this topic. So then the manager gets an email every night saying, here is the latest details of the next steps. So again, if there's been confidential information put into this, following it, we'll send that information out on the email. But the idea is that we're not sending out the details on the each individual case. So hopefully it's not huge amounts of confidential information going into the emails. But you've just got to balance it up within your org, whether that's the best way of doing things. So, and then like you can even go to the next step and go to chatter and put streams and my notifications and do topics and do next case steps and latest case updates and do notify me never, and then see all together. They can build their own stream of information about the cases or contacts, and put all of these together and just say, what are my team doing? And see that without having reports. Again, we don't want reports. You don't want to build reports all the time. This is just all there, ready to go. Okay, so let's go back to cases and just have a look at the other one which I've done, which is my cases to follow up. Just go to this one and have a look at the latest update. So the next steps is what's coming up next. Now you can have, depending on the record you're working with, whether you want to have latest update and next steps, or you want to have just latest update, or both. Okay, so cases and opportunities, I would have both. Accounts, contacts, where you just want to plug in details about who you last talked to, I would just do latest update. Okay, so latest update, I've got here, I can just put in, this is my latest update. The past. Okay, so again, the latest update is really important. Every single time you touch a record where this is important to your business, I want you to put a latest update in there. Okay, so I want that latest update field to be very visible. So usually if it's the very next thing that should happen, I put it up here on the right hand corner. Generally with the account records, account layouts, which are 2/3, 1/3, I'll put it up here above the chatter posts to say, tell us what the latest info is. So just so that it can quickly and easily update the latest details about this record. And then what I've done is I've added in the alias of the person who's made that update and the date. And again, I can format that date to be just 11/9 if I want to. So I've just done all sorts of so I've just done it simply for right now, but I can do all sorts of formatting there. So I've just done it in in square brackets. So it's like, this is when it happened, who it happened. Because what I noticed is that people were typing in their latest updates. And they were typing in JM 11th of the 9th, this is my details, because they, that's the way they've been taught to do notes previously. I don't want them to have to do that. I just want them to type in the latest update. So what I've done in my flow is I've done it in brackets, and I say talk to them about the gold pass now, and it will take out the latest, who did it, and put in the you who did it, and put it updated into the latest update. Okay. So every single latest update, when it changes, is in Chatterpost. Every single latest update, the manager can see every single latest update by doing the latest case updates. Okay, this is Now, the other thing you can do with topics, if you have topics related to this, records related to this topic, when you add topics to a record, they come up here too. Topics is a fabulous feature, just like Chatter, fabulous feature, very underutilized, but also very, it hasn't been finished, polished, because topics are great, but you can't report on them very easily. So when someone asks, can I get a report on this topics feed? No, you can't, because it's just not something Salesforce does. You can do a report on the chatter post, but if the chatter post is very long, you're not going to get a report out. So basically you say no, right? Here, you've got this here. You favorite it, you come back to your favorites, and here's the latest case updates. 2 clicks away whenever you need it, okay? And again, they can hover over that and get the case details. So there is that. So my case is to follow up. Go back to that case. Okay, and then so we'll go back to our action views of all open cases, right? And we'll come back to table view. And so at any point in time, people can use this list view like a shared Excel spreadsheet and just go through and bulk update any details on the next steps, the follow update, the latest update, and the status. Okay, so now that's moving forward, so now that's in progress. Okay, so let's say that one's now escalated. So we now need to, Joe needs to look at this. Okay. And I think there's another a nice thing you can do. So I've got there Joe to look at this, and we can just modify any record, and you can see here then that the date and the name is then in the list view. So again, rather than having people type JM/9/11, all of that details in the list view. Okay, and then you can do the wrap text in the list view to make sure that you can see all of that details. And so therefore, when you can see the date and the name in there, you can see when things are really old. Because I've got this in one client, they've been using it forever and ever, but they might have a latest update, and we just don't know. When we're looking at a list view, we don't know when that latest update was done. Of course, we can go to the post and see the chatter post. Go to the record and see the chatter post of when that latest update was done. But I just find that it needs to be a way of knowing that these things are so they don't get stale. So you could do something like clear it out, this value out after 3 months, or clear this out after the status has changed, or have different business rules around how you do this. Now I've just got one more trick to show you on this. I haven't tried this in a while, but my client used it with great effect. So if I do just a regular post and I do at Mary Smith, right, and this is a post, and then Mary's going to get that, okay, and Mary's going to get an email. So what they were doing is in their all open cases, in their latest update field, they were doing at now. Interesting, I think with my flow that's not going to work. At Mary Smith to look at this. Okay. Yes, okay, let's try one other thing. I couldn't believe it when they did it. It was like, I was like, that's really cool. All open cases. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. All right, I'm going to, I can't access that org anymore to find out what's going on, what it did. There was a way they could absolutely do chatter posts mentioning people within their updates. If I find that back, I'll put it back in the comments. If I find out how that they do that, I'll put it in the comments. Because that was actually really cool too. Anyway, so that is some really cool features that I use in just about every single org I build. So now let's have a look at the flow. Okay, so flows. Okay, so I've got two flows: case after create follow-up and case after update latest update. I follow the strategy of multiple flows and allowing the Flow Trigger Explorer to tell us which flows to run before when. I do not subscribe to one flow per object or one automation type per object at all, mainly because I work with small businesses and we just don't get to that level of issue. I am getting to an issue in one org because I do have lots of old process builders and some flows, and that's just triggering me to get updated and move everything to flows so that I can work through the Flow Trigger Explorer and set the priority of the flows. Okay, so here is our case after create update for a follow-up. So case record is created or updated, and I've done it with the next step is null and next steps is changed, or follow-up update is not null, so that's not null, and follow-up date is changed. So if either or is changed, and they're both not null when they're changed, then I'm doing every time the record is updated to meet the record conditions, doing created or updated, and because this is chatter, it is after update, and it's actions and related, so it's actions and related records, okay? And we've got chatter, we've got a text chatter post and the target name of the record ID. And our text chatter post is just the formula for follow-up, and then the words next steps, and then the next steps, and then the topic. Okay, so if there is no follow-up, then follow-up date, then it's just going to show next steps, and I've got the space in the follow-up formula, and then always showing the next case steps. So if the follow-up date is not blank, then put follow-up date on, then put the follow-up date. Again, I could change that to be a smaller date format, and then I've got a full stop and a space. Otherwise, I've got nothing. Okay, and we'll just make that active now with the new change. Now that I've got after create update for the latest update, and this one's a little bit different. And again, This one's the most complex one I've ever built of this. Normally it's just a chatter post like the other one, but now what I've put in the thing about the username, the user, the initials or alias, and the date, it's a little bit more more detailed. Now, if you're doing bulk updates of 200 records or 500 records at once or something like that, you might have to look at whether this needs to be simplified. But go with it until it breaks, and then work through it then. Okay, so again, text chatter post record ID, and then I've got so I'll come back to here. So I've got my text chatter post, which is the user details, the latest update, and the latest case update. So my latest update formula looks terrible, but all it's doing is just taking this bits in the square brackets off. Okay, so we're finding that right square bracket in the space and taking that off that latest update, so that they can, if they fill in the latest update with those values in there, it's taking that off, right? And then the user details is adding that back on. So the current user and the current date. Okay, so I'm just using the user alias. If your aliases are long, you might want to have another field on the user called initials and put the initials in there. Completely customizable. And I'm putting the square brackets before and after that, and I'm putting a space at the end of the square brackets. So the text chatter post again is the user details, the latest update stripped out the old user details, and then the topic of text, latest case update. And then because that latest update with the then I'm adding back the user details and the latest update. So the new user details and the latest update, and putting that back into the field on the case. Again, that bit is optional, right? You could just have it that the so yeah, it's interesting. Okay, I've probably gone a little overboard with that flow. I've just realized my my issues there. I probably want to have the thing put in there, but not in here, because I've already got who created it and the date they've created it there, right? So I probably don't need it there in the chatter post, but I do want it there because I want it there in my reports. So again, when I do my reports, let me just build a report for this. So here's my report of all open cases, and now I can do my latest update directly into that the report, hit save there, and it will still do exactly the same thing. Put that date and who updated it, and or post it to Chatter. So I think in Winter 23 there's you can do multiple updates on reports, so that's going to be more useful. But again, if people like using reports now, the editing of reports is quite useful. Okay, now I did say before about doing the report alert. So go to all open cases, subscribe to the report, and you can only do this, of course, if you allow your people to subscribe to reports, and daily at 8 a.m. And we want to add conditions to this report only where record count is greater than or equal to 1, and only the summary. So that's what is a report alert. It'll just say, hey, manager, you've got open cases that are aged over 8 days. This user hasn't done their job properly. Chase them up, but this means that we're not sending details of the report out. So that's where if you do summary and report, it gives them the details of the report. Here we're doing summary only, which only gives them a link to the report so they can come in here. The other way of doing it, of course, is to create a dashboard. And again, you've heard this concept of a dashboard of zeros. So all of those action views, again, should be 0. if there's anything in the action view, I want to see all of those in a dashboard. And then because that dashboard is, you have it based grouped by username. This user has that many new cases outstanding, or new accounts that haven't had the SLAs, and then you could subscribe the manager to that dashboard. Okay, subscribing to a dashboard is fine because it doesn't give us the details, and again they've got to go into the dashboard in Salesforce and then look at the details. So hopefully that helps us with the way I help my clients work through cases, and some cool stuff to use Chatter, make it easier for the users to update their records, make it visibility for their manager, make their manager check up on them with micromanaging without actually having to build a report that tells them how to micromanage, and have a history of the all of those updates in the Chatter. Again, Chatter records only last 18 months, I believe, like history tracking, but you can pay Salesforce 10% of your licensing fees and have audit tracking added on. If you're serious about auditing, you need to buy that. It extends that life of that history tracking and Chatter records. I'm pretty sure it does affect Chatter records also. And of course, you could turn on history tracking for those fields also, and then have that extra extended lifetime of the history tracking of those latest updates fields. And the other thing is don't try and make those fields anything more than the standard text fields of 255 characters, because they just won't work with long text fields, because history tracking won't track on long text fields, and there's some other reason why they just wouldn't work for long text fields. You can't edit long text fields in the grid view. That's what it is. So yeah, only short text, and you only want short updates. Okay, so hopefully that helps.